And welcome in. Appreciate y'all so much for joining us here at Buckeye Huddle Primetime. I am your host, Chuck Milletti. Buckeye Huddle Primetime every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. all season long. We will be here, and we have got a lot to get to tonight. The Buckeyes have completed their first week of camp. What are your expectations for these 2025 Buckeyes? As the coaches poll has been released, we will go over that. But the public sentiment about them has me a little confused. I can't quite figure out why. Rather than talking about a repeat, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about this as a 3-loss team. We got some recruiting news as well to get to today about the class of 2026, a class with a lot of 3-stars, a lot of developmental guys. I want to talk about a few of those guys tonight. We also have 2 teams in the Big Ten now with incredibly impressive hauls in 2026 and an article from Rivals that I need to address. But that's the class of 2026. How about the class of 2025? My goodness, man. Ohio State's freshman class right now, I think the best since 2021. I don't think there's any argument about it. And this is the type of class that national championship runs are built around. They just look amazing. Of course, we'll get to all your super chats tonight. And then when I'm done with all my segments, I usually jump in the chat. So if you got anything you want to talk about, you don't have to do a super chat. You can just go ahead and pop in there when I'm all done, and I might catch it and we'll talk about it then. So, and again, appreciate you all so much for joining us. If you are a Buckeye Huddler and you have not subscribed, I think it's time you do that now, because we got a goal here. We're trying to get to 30,000, I'm told, by the boss man, 30,000 before the Texas game. And that's a decent climb. So let's get those likes and subscriptions on and popping. Now, the coaches poll has been released, and many despise preseason polls. I get it. They can sway public opinion throughout the season, and a lot of people can't stand it because of that. I think it adds another layer of interest, and I really don't know, like, even if you did away with the AP poll in the coaches poll, you would still have people in college football, media types, that do them anyway, and there would be some kind of consensus. There's really no way of getting around it. So let's take a look at that poll. We've got Texas at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, Penn State at number 3, followed by Georgia, Notre Dame, and Clemson. Then we've got Georgia, Notre Dame, Clemson. Then we got Oregon, Alabama, LSU, and Miami rounds out the top 10. So that is 3 Big Ten teams in the top 10, 4 SEC teams in the top 10, 2 ACC teams in Notre Dame. In the top 25, we've got 6 Big Ten teams, 9 SEC teams, 5 Big 12 teams, and 3 ACC teams. How about that for the Big 12? Also got Boise and Notre Dame in there. Thoughts about this? We got basically the same top 4 as the Las Vegas odds. The Las Vegas odds currently Texas at plus 550. Georgia and Ohio State are tied at plus 650. So Georgia, Ohio State tied for the second best odds to win the national championship. Penn State is 4th at plus 750. And then they go Alabama, Clemson, Oregon, Notre Dame, LSU. So the same top 9 teams, slightly different order after the top 4. Those all 5 are kind of jumbled up together, though. The numbers don't differentiate much. But I think there's a lot of different combinations. You could put these 9 teams in order and make a defense of your case, make your case for it, and it would make sense, because a lot of these teams look really good, and a lot of them have, one maybe issue or one suspect thing about them. But as far as the talent, they're all incredibly talented. They've all got competent coaching staffs. It's really, really exciting. But what are the expectations for 2025 in terms of the Buckeyes? Those expectations, they were very clear last year. Everybody knew what it was last year, but I want to read you this comment here, because this comment represents a lot of comments I've been getting lately. He says, he's not 6'1". That said, Lincoln is not the guy. I think it's going to be a tough year for OSU, and I hate to say that as a fan, I won't be surprised if we lose 3 games this year. Now, this is a pretty common refrain I'm hearing about the Buckeyes. I don't mean the comment about Julian Saint's height, though. That's taken on a whole life of its own, really. Like, if I was Julian, I think I would do just like a wise guy video getting measured, like just to put it out there, because he is 6'1", in my opinion. I'm pretty confident of that. I've seen him up close. I really think it's his baby face, man. The guy's baby face makes him appear smaller. But hey, it'll work out for him long in life to have that baby face. Anyway, part of what I love doing about Juck on Bucks and this show now at Buckeye Huddle is interacting with Ohio State fans and college football fans basically all day, every day. And the reason that I read this comment is because this is a growing sentiment. Like the last month or so, I'm seeing it more and more and more. Bucks are going to lose 3. I won't be surprised if they lose 3. Just kind of this bracing for a down year. And I'm a homer, clearly. I make no bones about my allegiance, but I think I can be a homer and be objective. I mean, I love Ohio State. I love the Ohio State fan base, but I think I've done my best since I started this show last year. Not this show, started my show, Buckeye Huddle Primetime, a very, very new show. But I've done my best to separate what I want to happen versus my objective analysis. And sometimes I'm even critical when warranted, but the criticism is always with the caveat of, yes, this is really good. Everything's always really good at Ohio State, but I'm talking not compared to the rest of college football. I'm judging Ohio State versus the rest of the top 5, because fortunately for us, that's the standard Ohio State set. They're a top 5 program consistently, so that's who they're judged against, in my opinion. But this take somehow that this team is going to be the team that goes 9-3, it's really interesting to me for a few reasons. For starters, it's obviously been a very rare occurrence this century for that to happen, right? This program, 3 seasons this century with 3 losses or more, and 2 of those seasons were coaching transitions from Cooper to Tressel, from Tressel to Fickle. That doesn't fit the description of this season at all. So basically, in a normal season since the turn of the century, Ohio State football has lost 3 games 1 time. 21 out of 22 seasons, they've not lost 3 games in the regular season, which is just absurd. And the odds are definitely against this happening. It's actually a bold prediction to say Ohio State is going to lose 3 games. That's a bold prediction. In fact, it's so bold that Ohio State is 3 times more likely to win a national championship than it is to lose 3 games. If we're using my caveat there of not counting the coaching transition seasons, 3 times more likely to win a national championship than lose 3 games. That's nuts. But I'm stumped. I don't understand it. Nobody has explained it logically to me as to where this is coming from and why so many people are all of a sudden down on this team. Like, even if we're talking about a team that's not a national championship contender, you're talking about losing 3 games. I just don't get it. But I'm looking back at other seasons where you got a quarterback change under the same head coach, looking back at 2021, looking back at 2023, years with new quarterbacks under Ryan Day. And this was not the sentiment then. I wasn't hearing this kind of talk from Ohio State fans, maybe some from outside. But Ryan Day, now a better coach. He wasn't the same coach back then. He's continued to improve every year. And it's taken him a little longer than most coaches when they step in to a big program to totally own the program. And that's just due to Urban Meyer being such an enormous outsized personality. His presence just kind of lingered long after he left, and Ryan Day worked for him. So I think that really kind of set him back a couple of years as he, depended on some of it from the start. But then as he tried to filter it out and really put his stamp of ownership on it, it just was a little bit of a longer process. But it's all Ryan Day now. This is his program, 6 years in with a national championship, 2 national championship appearances, 4 playoff appearances. How many programs have done that in the last 6 years? 4 playoff appearances in 6 years? None. Not one. Well, one. Just Ohio State. Just Ryan Day. That's it. His winning percentage is unparalleled. He's not had a single game in his career where he's lost as a substantial favorite outside of the rivalry game in 2024. And that game to me is just a kind of a story unto itself. But what I mean by that is there are no Iowas or Purdue's or Northwesterns. There's none of those slip-ups. He's really, really dialed in as to what he wants in a coaching hire, from Laurinaitis to Keenan Bailey to Coach Locke to Walton, Guerreri. Home run hires. Billy Fessler, sure getting rave reviews. I think he's going to be a home run hire too. He's just been innovative recently with how he structured the offensive line hires. When he hired Tyler Bowen along with Charlie Dickey, and then they got Marcus Johnson. You got 3 Power 5 offensive line coaches coaching 17 offensive linemen, which, by the way, Watching them work was really impressive. But it was brilliant. It was a brilliant structure. And to be honest, few schools could pull that off. Few schools have the allure to get a guy like Marcus Johnson and Charlie Dickey come and instead of going somewhere maybe a little lesser than Ohio State and having their own offensive line room, to come and be part of a team of offensive line coaches. It's just, that's flexing Ohio State muscle right there. Ryan Day made it happen. And this team, a top 3 talent team in the country by any metric, and now they've got national championship pedigree. They climbed the mountain together. They got it done. This coaching staff, this crew of guys. And yes, you lost a lot of guys, and the guys you lost were a lot of the leaders. But who returns that played a substantial role in that national championship team? Well, on defense, more than half of this team in 2024 contributed in a big way. The entire starting defensive line played a lot. The linebackers, you got one starter in Sonny, and Arvell played a lot of snaps. Arvell was kind of like Cody was in 2023. You know, he was that third guy, played about 250 snaps, and now he steps up into his starting role. In the secondary, Caleb Downs is back. IGB is back. They both started. Jermaine Matthews played a ton after the Oregon game. The only guys who didn't play much on defense, 2 roles, nickel and the safety opposite Downs. That's it. So on offense, you got the same offensive line that won it all, and you just went ahead and added a potential first-round left tackle in Ethan Onyanwa. You got the same tight ends, essentially, but you lost G. Scott, and you bring in the best in the game in Max Clare. You've got the same wide receivers, except for B.I. wasn't a huge part last year on the field, but he was a huge part on the team. And boy, more about B.I. in a little bit. But this is not an inexperienced team, is what I'm saying. It's just not. And it's not the only year we've had turnover like this. So why is it this year that I'm hearing so much about this? I'm not sure the reason, but I know that a lot of people will probably point to a tougher Big Ten. Without a doubt, the Big Ten is tougher. It's a harder conference now. You've got more quality teams, not just that, but teams that for years didn't care or didn't invest in football have made a pivot since the big Fox deal, and they've started investing more in football. Well, has it affected Ohio State's schedule in 2025? Let's pull it up. So the schedule pretty much follows the same format that it's always followed my entire life. Like prior to Big Ten expansion, there was a blueprint in my head every year when the schedule would come out, and it usually had the same exact format, right? You had one big out-of-conference game to start the season. Then you had Penn State, and you had the game. So you had those 3 big games every year. Then usually there was one team from that next tier that was going to be pretty good that year, whether that would be a Michigan State or a Wisconsin or an Iowa. And then you had a road game that looked like, that could get kind of wonky if things would get kind of messy in that particular road game. And despite Big Ten expansion, this schedule is essentially the same exact blueprint. You've got one tough out of conference game in Texas. You've got Penn State and the game. That's your 3. Then you got the next tier team in the Big Ten that's pretty good. That's Illinois. And then you got the road team that looks like, man, that could get kind of tricky. That's Washington. The same exact blueprint. This schedule, aside from Texas being really good, like better than, most of those out of conference games that we've played, though we have played some with a really good team, Texas a couple times in this century. It's the same format. And Ohio State, by the way, the favorite in that game, despite everybody picking Texas, they're still the favorite. So I got to ask myself, where is all the doubt coming from when it comes to this crew? And I just don't get it, because it's not just Ohio State fans, Nationals too. We went over the national championship odds, and I remember early polls when they came out after spring, Ohio State was a consensus top 3 team. And just like we saw in the coaches polls, similar how it looked back then in the spring. But as the offseason has progressed and people have updated it and rolled new ones out, I'm now seeing Ohio State number 5, number 6. And it just feels like there's a big disconnect between Las Vegas and a lot of the public opinion on Ohio State. What's my expectation for this team? My expectations are really high, not just because of the things I just listed, but in particularly Ryan Day. I think what he's telling us is maybe the most important thing. Now, 25 Ohio State has the opportunity to do what few Ohio State teams have ever had the opportunity to do in the history of the program, and that's repeat. There's been, 8 teams before these guys who've had an opportunity to repeat as national champions, and obviously they've all failed. But what's the vibe from the head coach about that repeat? Let's quickly go back to heading into 2024. 2024, the Buckeyes embraced natty or bust. You don't hear it often from teams. You really don't ever hear it from coaches. You really don't see it encouraged from coaches. Coaches notoriously underpromise, overdeliver. We hear things like focus on the process, 1 week at a time. Ryan Day and his Buckeyes did not do that in 2024. They went all the way in. They were very public with natty or bust. They stuck their necks out. It sounded confident, cocky to some people. There were some people who cover Ohio State who really didn't like it. I think most fans loved it. I definitely did. I found it comforting that they were talking about winning it all. They weren't talking about winning the Big Ten. They were going for it all, and anything else was going to be unsatisfactory to them. I loved it. But what was most interesting was Ryan Day was not running from that at all. He embraced it publicly, and he really put a bullseye on his back. Because if we can just pause for a second, like, that took serious stones. Had he lost to Tennessee, it wouldn't have just been humiliating for all the reasons that the season played out in the end, but the fact that he was embracing the natty or bust. Can you imagine? These Michigan folks, they won't shut up now, and Ohio State won a national championship. Imagine if they had that on him. My gosh. But some people, after Ohio State won that national championship, have revisionist history, like my Wisconsin Uncle Mark. He'll say it didn't take huge stones for Ryan Day to say that. That's what Uncle Mark will say. He'll say they had such a great $20 million team that everybody knew Ohio State was going to win the national championship before the season. That's wrong. Much to my irritation, they were not the favorite going in. Georgia was. And Georgia was on pace to potentially win 3 out of 4 national championships. They had their back-to-back. Then in 2023, they barely missed the playoffs, and most people still said they were still the best team. So heading into 24, it was Georgia. So Day backed himself into a corner, and he delivered. Now, this season, what is Ryan Day saying preseason? What is this guy saying as he enters in with this brand new team? Is it a new team? Yes, he's saying that. Is he saying one game at a time or the Big Ten championship is the goal? No, he is not saying that at all. He's talking about repeating. Ryan Day is out there talking about doing something that no other Ohio State team has ever done. I've watched him now in multiple interviews bring this up himself, not get questioned about it, but bring it up himself, the word repeating. These guys want to repeat. He wants to repeat. He's embracing it like he did natty or bust. And this is something a lot of coaches in his situation would totally run from, particularly if they don't have the team to do it, because he's sticking his neck out again. And coaches don't do that. It's very rare. He knows how hard it is to win a national championship now. He's done it. He knows what a national championship team looks like. He's had one and played against them. He knows his roster. He knows his staff. Last year, he had a lot of reason to be confident, and they did it the hardest way possible. There's a difference in this attempt to repeat than the previous teams have had in this century at Ohio State. Obviously, you got the national championship team in 2002, the national championship team in 2014, and now in 2024. When we look back at 2014, coming into the following year, like you, me, everybody in the country, Ohio State was going to cruise to the national championship. The odds that season, heading into that year, Ohio State was plus 250 to win a national championship. And for those not versed in gambling, that means if you bet $100, you only win $250. Betting a preseason team to win the national championship. That's a huge favorite. I just told you. So what, Texas is plus 600, and that's the best odds now. So you bet 100 on Texas to win it, you win 600. That's how big of a favorite Ohio State was in 2015 entering that season. A pretty bad bet. What about after 2002? 2002, they brought back another team loaded with talent. They had the second best odds. Oklahoma was the best at plus 450. Ohio State was plus 500. Miami was plus 600. People didn't realize Ohio State already killed them. The program's dead. Never came back after that. But when we look at all three of these national championship teams, they all had a massive draft class, right? Record-setting draft class. But what's different between them is 2002 and 2014, those classes, so 2002, they had a huge draft class, 14 picks, 3 first-rounders, but it came in 2004, skipped a year because they all returned. Same thing in 2014. You had 12 picks, 5 first-rounders, but it was not 2015, it was 2016. Both skipped a year, showing that young talent, that core stayed. Conversely, the 2024 national champions set their draft record in 2025. 14 draft picks, 4 first-rounders. Maybe it's better this way. Maybe it's better this way with a young, hungry team who have seen it done and were a part of it, but weren't the core group. They watched those seniors who were senior, the class of 2021, walk out the door, and now it's their turn. My expectations for this team, they split against Penn State and Texas. They could win them both. They take care of business in between. And despite saying that I'm not going to pick them to beat Michigan until I see it, I also did theorize before the playoffs, heading into the Tennessee game, that if Ryan Day can pull this off, if he can win the national championship, I think he will officially get the monkey off of his back, and the way he coaches that game will be different. After he accomplishes something huge, after he delivers something huge to Ohio State, to the fan base, he's going to be able to coach that game in a way that he's not coached it previously, which is like every other game. So, yeah, I think we're looking at an 11-1 season. But as far as a national championship pick, man, we've never seen anything like this. The 12-team playoff adds such a different dimension, and it makes it so difficult to pick preseason who's going to be able to run that gauntlet. There are so many more variables now, so many more teams. And I think preseason, there are legitimately 9 teams who have the coaching and the potential talent to win this thing. I think the 4 most likely, though, are not what the odds say. I think it's Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Clemson. I got Georgia behind those 4. Now, there could be some magic going on at Georgia with quarterback Gunnar Stockton, who is a really smart meathead, kind of like a Tim Tebow, not quite to that level, but he always wanted to be a Bulldog, Georgia country boy, set all sorts of records, a high school phenom from, started from a freshman all the way up, and loves the team. The team loves him. He's got not as good of an arm as they're used to, but he can run, and he got big upgrades at receiver. And guess what? Here's the thing. Kirby Smart gets the benefit of the doubt. And that's essentially my argument here. My argument is Ryan Day feels comfortable this team can repeat. Ryan Day's Buckeyes deserve the same benefit of the doubt that Kirby Smart gets. They get it from me. So those are my expectations. But if you are someone who is of the mind, yeah, this might be a rough season, like our guy there whose comment I pulled up, I want to hear why, because I just don't get it. Now, let's all remember to hit that like button, share the show with a friend, help us get to our subscription goal of 30,000 subscribers here at Buckeye Huddle. As my boss said, he's trying to get that done before the Texas game. I don't know what's going to happen to me if we don't get there, but he's a really tough cookie. So help me out. We have a subscription goal over at Juck on Bucks as well. If you're a Buckeye Huddler who likes this show here, you can go find more of it over at Juck on Bucks. You could subscribe over there as well. It would be fantastic. More Buckeye content, always a good thing. Now, Wednesday, our first Buckeye Huddle primetime guest will be joining us, and that's going to be Buckeye Huddle veteran, who I've always secretly wanted to do a show with, and his name is Tony Gerdeman. He has just a fantastic dry sense of humor that I just find hysterical. The thing is, I don't know if that's just with Tom or if, he could do that with anybody. Some people, they have to have chemistry, and they can't do that with everybody. So we'll find out if Tony's got the chops to bring it Wednesday on Buckeye Huddle primetime. But you can catch us here at 8. I'll bring Tony on around 8:15. Tomorrow, we will hear from Ryan Day, Billy Fessler, and the quarterbacks. So we get to hear from Julian, get to hear from Lincoln tomorrow. They'll be speaking at the Woody in one of their lightning rounds that they do after practice. You can catch those live streamed right here at Buckeye Huddle, of course, Wizard Kevin Noon, the man behind the scenes. I did my first live stream from the Woody with Mark Givler on Saturday after practice. Guys, it was so crazy. I had no idea that when they're doing those things, there's people all over the place. Like, you can't see them, but they're all off to the left. I got Sonny Styles and Jermaine Matthews just pulling their shoulder pads 10 yards away from me right here. And I'm trying to concentrate and not make an idiot of myself on the screen. And I just want to look over here. You know what I mean? It was wild, but it was a ton of fun. I appreciate all the friendly comments. You guys are too kind. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but it was really cool to read that. Appreciate you guys. But Julian's saying Buckeyes now 4 weeks left, right? 25 or 26 days till the Texas game. And through 4 practices of camp, how long do you think Ryan Day goes before he names the starting quarterback? Texas adds a whole lot more pressure than Akron last year or other previous kind of warm-up cream puff games. But whichever quarterback is the starter, it's going to be his first start against a Power 4 team. It will also be Arch Manning's first start against a Power 4 team. And I ran across this graphic here, and this graphic shows other high-profile, successful college quarterbacks in their first start against a P4 team. So take a look at this guy here. Oh, geez. Do I got to pull that? No, you can see it. Okay. So you've got Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Kenny Pickett, Trevor Lawrence, and Joe B. And if we look all the way to the right, we can see their rating right off the rip. CJ Stroud stands out, the very best one. Played against a good Minnesota team. 13 of 22, not so hot, but 294 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Bryce Young also with a really good day against Miami, 27 for 38, 344, and 4 touchdowns. Important to note, Bryce Young, Julian Sayan's idol. He has watched him, they're from a similar area. He's watched him and modeled his game after him. He's actually a similar size. I think that bodes well for Julian Sayan in start number 1. But you look down where Trevor Lawrence, pretty good, 216 for Trevor Lawrence, 13 of 18, 176, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. But when we look at the rest of them, not so hot. Not so hot. Joe B, definitely not so hot. Cam Ward, not so hot. Jaden Daniels, not so hot. Kenny Pickett, not so hot. So these are what these guys are walking into, not just their first P4 start, but first P4 start on a huge stage. I mean, as big of a stage as it can get, as we now see. I don't know if the AP poll is going to be much different than the coaches poll. It really could be, because we have seen, all over the place with these preseason polls. So it really could be the potential of Texas being number 1 and Ohio State being like 4 or 5. Either way, it's a top 5 matchup. If we're lucky, it'll be a top 3 matchup. But it's just a massive, massive game. And you got these guys making their first start on both sides, which, yeah, Arch has experience, but he's never done that before. Though he did play in the playoffs, I don't think he's got a great memory from it. I think Lathan Ransom made sure he doesn't have a fantastic memory of his time in that game, if he has any memory at all. Is that a bad joke? I shouldn't have made that. I do want to talk about the quarterbacks a little more. So they were doing this drill on Saturday where they had the quarterbacks standing about 40 yards away from the goal line, and they were throwing the ball, just a rainbow throw, trying to drop it in the bucket on the goal line, which is really fun to watch. For starters, Tavian St. Clair had some real clunkers accuracy-wise, but just watching his body be able to make that throw, it was clearly so much less effort for him to get it that distance and that trajectory than anybody else. And that bodes well. I mean, just a really effortlessly strong arm. Lincoln was loading up. Julian was loading up, but Julian just so poetic the way he goes about it, man. He just kind of swings his leg forward and kind of hops on his left foot a little as it's in the air. It's pretty hilarious. That guy has probably thrown more footballs than all the other 3 quarterbacks combined, just reps of throwing a ball. And he was on he was on the money. He was definitely the best in that drill, which was really fun to watch. The wide receivers, they had to start from the 10, and they had their back turned to the receiver, and Hartline would tell them to go. So they would have to go and then turn and look back. So they couldn't track the ball in the air until they were on like the 5, and then they'd turn. Seems like a really effective drill. I really liked it. It was fun to watch. But Julian definitely had that one locked in. I'm guessing Ryan Day would like to have this thing sewn up. Obviously, he said before the season, but I think the ideal situation would probably be about 2 weeks before the game. But I do want to get to this comment that somebody dropped the other day. And I want to pull this up because I've gotten a couple of comments like this, and I like to address it when we get a couple that are similar. So our guy here, Rich, Lincoln could outperform Julian 5 days in a row, and on the 6th day, Julian would play better, and everyone goes, there, Julian is the guy. I don't get it. Now, I understand what Rich is trying to say here. We did hear that day 1, they were pretty even, but most people were giving the nod to Lincoln. And day 2, again, same thing, kind of even. A lot of people were giving the nod to Julian. And then day 3, the reaction to Julian doing better was much different, like Rich says here. And there's several reasons for this. Obviously, number one is our natural instinct to always fall back on what we knew prior, right? Like Julian, the fact that both Nick Saban and Ryan Day were after him hard. Nick Saban wanted him to be his next Bryce Young. Then he comes in as a freshman, and he was outperforming Lincoln very quickly at Ohio State. And all of that is built into everybody's mind every time you have a quarterback competition. Everything that happened prior, you can't get away from it. You got guys that excel at different things. Lincoln's a great athlete, learning how to be a better passer. Julian's a better passer who's been nothing but focusing on this his whole life. And Lincoln was a multi-sport athlete who's just now fully dedicated into football. It's just a different upbringing. It's going to take him longer, and it has taken him longer. But when we talk about Saturday, they did a couple extra periods of 11 on 11, and they really opened it up a little more. They threw a lot more passes. They pushed it downfield a little more. And Julian was tremendous. He was dialed in, right? And I just feel like when Julian, when he throws a pick, it's where he wanted the ball to go. It was a bad decision, right? But the ball is usually where he wants it to go. And Lincoln, on the other hand, when we talk about the accuracy, and this really was on full display Saturday, he can just be a little erratic. And everybody can have a bad day. But when you see a quarterback, one of them is just really sharp and the other one isn't missing just a little bit, but a lot, it just kind of stands out like, yeah, I don't know how much longer this can go on if there's another couple of days like that. When one guy is just pinpoint accurate, making the right decisions, and the other guy, comes off a little erratic. And I certainly don't want this to sound negative on Lincoln. The guy's still learning, and obviously his learning curve is going to be different. He played every sport. Guy was a Major League Baseball prospect, So he's an awesome guy. He's an awesome Buckeye, and I'm rooting for him. But I just think Julian is probably going to wrap this thing up with about 2 weeks left. That's just kind of how I've been feeling about it, because I think that it makes a lot of sense to get it out of the way, get the game plan in. You got so much to do. Or you could go the other way and not let anybody know up until game day. But playing both of them game 1, that would be something. Now, this class of 2025, these freshmen, watching them out there really just reinforced something that I've thought for a long time, and that is this class of 2025 is the best Ohio State freshman class since 2021. And I didn't know if I was a little bit skewed on that, because when I started the show last year, obviously it was in the off season and there wasn't much to talk about. So it was really heavy on recruiting, and several of those guys in that class came on my show. I talked to more than half of them throughout their recruitment, and it just reinforced to me what great guys Ohio State goes after. They really filter out and they just get really good people, which I absolutely love. The kind of people, you're proud of to represent the school you love. But I was thinking maybe that was skewing my view. Maybe I was pumping this class up a little bit more than it deserved because there's so many good young guys. But my gosh, man, this class of 2025 could be an all-timer. We look at the senior class right now, the class of 2022. Who remains? CJ Hicks, Sonny Styles, Tegra Shabola, Carson Hinsman, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, and Bennett Christian. 5 starters out of the senior class remain. Now, Sonny, Kenyatta, guaranteed NFL dudes, no doubt about that. The other guys have a chance. They won't be coveted picks, but they'll work for it. I totally believe in, for one, Carson Hinsman for sure. I believe in Caden Curry. I don't know what their draft grades will be, but I believe both of those guys can catch on. Christian Bennett, possibly. Tegra definitely got the size. We'll see how he plays this year, and I expect him to play way better this year. But this senior class, 2/3 of it are gone. Out of 21 guys, you got 7 left, which is just wild. The more wild thing is every one of those guys, except for one, Hero Canoe, dropped down to play at a considerably lesser school, either out of the Power 5 or even one, like 2 of them are at Cal, right? So they're in the Power 5, but they're at Cal. So everybody drops down, and they just weren't quite up to snuff at Ohio State. When we look at this class of 2025, you've got most likely your future starting quarterback in Tavian St. Clair in the class. You've got Devin Sanchez, and I'm going to be really, really cautious and say a first rounder, but I really believe he's, a top 10, top 5 pick. Quincy Porter already looking like he's going to be a total stud. And with his size, that's a first rounder. Phillip Bell, guys, Phillip Bell is all over the place. He was in the spring all over the place, played a great spring game, looked great on Saturday out there with everybody. He's a dude. Carter Lowe absolutely will be a starting left tackle at Ohio State at some point. And with that size, sky's the limit. Then you got guys like Javon McFadden and Jake Cook. Javon McFadden out here stonewalling Caden McDonald in one-on-ones. That's a freshman. Was a 3-star until real late in the class, just got bumped up to his 4-star. Same exact story with Jake Cook, who is now the backup left guard. All 3 of those linemen in that class will be future Ohio State starters. On the defensive line, both Epi Satanile and Ziggy Grady looked fantastic, way ahead of schedule, both size-wise, movement, everything about him. Fahim Delane is a dog. He'll be a starting safety at Ohio State. And then you got the linebackers with Riley Pettijohn, TJ Alford. Just, yeah, what James has done to that linebacker room is amazing. Jarquez Carter looked really good. We know tight end Nate Roberts is already making waves. We saw that in the spring. But now Brody Lennon has come in. And Brody looks the part, man. Catching balls, crazy athlete. Bo Jackson is clearly a special back. Turbo Rogers looking like an absolute weapon. Max Roy looks like the third Hamilton brother, and his thighs are about as big around as your waist. It just looks like the type of class that you build a national championship run around. They are fantastic. Now, the 2026 class, a little less than complete. And it also includes more developmental guys than Ohio State is used to having. Just going by the 24/7 composite, if we go back a few classes and start at 2021, the 2021 class had 2 3-star kids, 2022, 2, 2023, 1, 2024, 3, 2025 had 5, and 2026 has 7. Now, when we look at the 5 5-stars that are freshmen now, the 5 3-stars that are freshmen now, there were none of them that were any of those guys that I listed as standing out, which is interesting. I didn't realize that till I was writing it down for this segment, but it is true. And it makes perfect sense. They're more developmental guys. There's nothing wrong with that. You need those guys in the program now more than ever with the transfer portal. You cannot get by having multiple classes like 2022, where you lose 2/3 of the class. You got to have guys who are going to stay in the program and develop and not be looking for greener pastures because they came in as a highly rated 4-star. They should be playing. They got their agent and their parents pushing them. You need guys who are going to stick in the program. Somebody asked me on the Buckeye Huddle board, I commented about, by the way, you guys should be on the Buckeye Huddle board. It's awesome. Go to buckeyehuddle.com and join if you want to join. You don't have to join to read the articles sometimes. Some are free, but you should always come on that board and consider joining that message board. It's awesome. I just love it. But we talk football all day, and I was working on the show, so I didn't get a chance to respond. But what guys out of those 7 3-stars in the class of 2026 do I think Ohio State did a great evaluation on? Because I really think they really nailed it on these evaluations. Number one, in 2026, Brock Boyd is a 3-star kid. Brock Boyd is one of the best wide receivers in Texas. Brian Hartline went and put his stamp of approval on him. That kid shouldn't be a 3-star, and I don't think he will be by the end of the cycle. He's right on the cusp. Same thing with Aaron Thomas, who I thought was a huge win. He's a true offensive tackle that just played his first year at offensive tackle. And he is, just a sniff away from getting his 4-star. I think the class will close with both of those guys getting their 4-star. So it really doesn't matter about those evaluations when we're talking about the 3-stars, because I don't think they will be. That leaves us 5. So who do you got? You got Cam Brickle. You got Jameer Perez on the defensive line. Corbin Fordham at tight end, Luke Fahey at quarterback, and Tucker Smith on the offensive line. Now, Jameer Perez, to me, that's just a no-brainer. Simply because of his body type that we don't often get up here. And coming from a place like Glenville, he was a must get. You got to get him just for the potential, just for his size. And if you've ever heard him talk, a smart kid, he's all in. And those things mean something to me. They mean something to Ohio State. And I really like that. I really love the quality of guys that they seek after, that they try to get. But I think his future is really bright. Now, in my opinion, Cam Brickle was a guy that if they didn't get Jameer Perez, I wanted Cam Brickle, and I wanted him over Preston Carey. I wanted either one of those two to be that one tech in place of Jameer Perez. I didn't want Cam Brickle and Jameer Perez. That's what they ended up getting. But I wanted Deuce Gerald's instead of Cam Brickle. Either way, he committed to LSU. We got Cam Brickle. But Brickle does have some serious potential. He's got some twitchy athleticism for sure. And who knows, he could develop into something really special because he does have a different level of athleticism than most guys that size. You can see it. It's pretty apparent. And this year, playing at IMG, we're going to get a real true evaluation of him against some top-notch competition. By the way, he'll be playing with Preston Carey, who is going to Georgia. And those were the two guys kind of ranked about the same that Ohio State was after. And they ended up with Cam Brickle. So it'd be interesting to watch those two together. Now, Tucker Smith, that's the lineman, offensive lineman out of Arizona. He reminds me of just a meathead Ohio offensive lineman who really wanted to be a Buckeye. And I love guys like that. He's also a true 6'5" and a pretty lean 280 pounds. There's definitely room for guys like that on the offensive line room. And Corbin Fordham, really interesting. Corbin Fordham, a tight end that Keenan Bailey, who now has a loaded tight end room, decided to go after this kid. He's a 3-star kid. He chose him. Look, just the block O on Keenan Bailey's chest could get him a random 4-star tight end. He chose this kid. He really wanted him. He was 215 pounds at the time. He's now up to 227. He moved like a wide receiver, looked like a big wide receiver. Now he's 227. I'm curious to see what he looks like now, but he's playing against good competition at the Bulls School in Jacksonville. And he can move. He can absolutely move. But the fact that Keenan singled him out tells me something, right? It tells us all something. Like, he really wanted that kid. That speaks volumes. So I'm really curious to see what Corbin Fordham can do. And then you look at the quarterback, Luke Fahey. Now, you were in a spot, right? You got Tavian St. Clair, Gap, Brady Edmonds, and potentially another 2027 quarterback they're going after. And under the circumstances, I think getting a guy like Fahey, who, he's not some schlub. The guy has an arm. He's just a little undersized. Getting a guy like him who, number one, grew up a Buckeye fan from California, wanted to come to Ohio State. That's important. And wants to come and develop. And who knows, if he's got to transfer out after learning at Ohio State, that's fine. But does he have the potential to potentially play? Does he have the physical tools? He does. He really does. So it's not in the plans the plans are Tavian St. Clair to Brady Edmonds, but maybe he can get it done. All things considered, when we look at this class, they've lost a lot of targets to multi-million-dollar deals, right? They did a pretty good job landing top-tier guys like Chris Henry Jr., Blaine Bradford, Sam Greer, great evaluations like Kari Wilder, Damari Simeon, in my opinion, Quay Guilford. And I think that there will be more starters that come from this class as seniors than 2022, put it that way. But I did want to reference this article from Rivals. So USC and Oregon are the new kings of Big Ten recruiting. That was written by Greg Smith. And Greg Smith, a respected guy in the recruiting world. And basically, he goes on to talk in this article about the new kids on the block, breaking up the traditional recruiting order of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State in the Big Ten. And now you got these two programs that many people thought couldn't compete in the Big Ten. I don't know that anybody serious was saying that USC or Oregon couldn't compete in the Big Ten. But apparently there were some unserious people who thought that. Obviously, Oregon could compete in the Big Ten. When we're talking about the Big Ten, we're talking about an entire conference. There are a couple of teams in the Big Ten that are at the upper echelon level, and Oregon matches up well with them, which means they're better than most of the Big Ten. And USC is a blue blood that's been down, but they can come roaring back, and we just might see it. Obviously, we know they went all in. They went for broke. Their class is number one in the country. It cost a ton of money. Obviously, with a crazy amount of kids already, 32. We'll see if they're able to keep it together past a year and a half. If they can, it's the kind of class you can build a national championship run around. Put a couple solid classes around that. But how realistic is their approach? And how do the new rules come into play? Oregon, the exact opposite of USC, they only got 16 recruits in their class. And in 16 recruits, they got the number 3 class because of the high-end talent they got in that class, which is pretty impressive. Without a doubt, really impressive for the Ducks. And I think the Ducks are a consistent now. This is the third cycle in a row. They've been right around top 5 or inside the top 5. That's just who they are now. And they'll continue to do that. USC, we're not so sure. We're only seeing it 1 year. We got to wait and see. And it's clearly a down year for Ohio State. Now, Greg Smith goes on to say, if Ohio State quits playing poor, things change. There's a difference between playing poor and playing by the rules, which Ohio State has been. And I don't feel like going all the way in to all that stuff tonight, but one cycle does not make USC king. This is a program that's been recruiting in the top 15 the last several years. The question is going to be, like a lot of programs like Texas A&M and USC, who we see at the top of the board here, are they going to be able to continue to go like this year after year? Or is this a one-year thing to try to get a class they can build around? And we don't know yet. But Oregon, I just consider them Ohio State's equal, essentially, in recruiting anymore. Like that's just who they are now. And we can just expect to be warring with them forever. It's Michigan that's, it's like they're pushing with a lot of money, and it looked like they were going to kind of fly into the top 5, and now they've cooled off. They've kind of petered out. Are they going to make a resurgence? I don't know, but Penn State, after starting fast, has nestled back into their ever so comfortable top 15 spot. I think they're actually 16th. It is uncanny. Penn State literally finishes 14th, 15th, or 16th every single year. Like they just love it right there. And I don't know why they don't give him more support. When you look at what they've got going on this year, guy's been there 10 years, winning them 10 games a season. Give him some more support. Get him up into the top 10, a couple of playmakers, and who knows what could happen. Before we go to the chat section, I want to talk to you guys about one more thing. So the Freaks list came out, and every year Bruce Feldman, who is a journalist for The Athletic that I really like, he's from California. He grew up a Buckeye fan. I don't know why. He's never explained that, but he did grow up a Buckeye fan. But Bruce Feldman puts together the Freaks list. And the Freaks list is the freakiest players in college football. He puts, what they can do in the gym and what they can run on the field. And we have got 2 Buckeyes that are in the top 10 on this list. And then one really interesting thing that one of those Buckeyes had to say. So I want to talk to you about it. So number one in the entire country, in the entire world, is Jeremiah Smith. And Jeremiah said he is most proud that he bench pressed 225, 20 reps. He said, I only hit like 5 before I got to Ohio State. I came in weak. He had an 11-foot broad jump, a 38-inch vertical jump, and ran 23.5 miles per hour, which is ridiculous for a man that size. He also squatted 550 pounds, and he credits this to the work he's been doing with a South Florida-based trainer, Pearson Sutton, since he was 8 for explosiveness. The way my trainer and my dad prepared me, working out 2-3 times a day, it just made me bigger, faster, and stronger. I was eating fast food probably every day throughout the season. It was bad. Now, with help of a nutritionist, he's got a meal plan. Smith is staying away from red meat and eating a lot of salmon, rice, and broccoli. The toughest thing for him was to give up Wendy's, which he hasn't had since right after the national championship. So Jeremiah Smith was eating Wendy's every day, playing like that. Now he's got a nutritionist. I don't agree with staying away from red meat, but nonetheless, definitely better to eat the salmon. Now, the top 10, we've got number 1 and number 10. In between them, Caden Proctor at Alabama, Nick Harbor at South Carolina, Amore Washington at Oregon, Peter Woods at Clemson, Dominic McKinley at LSU, Logan Jones, that's a center from Iowa. Iowa has 2 guys pretty high on this thing. Zane Durant, DT from Penn State, Kendrick Falk, and then at number 10, Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles, who is son of Lorenzo Styles, whose dad who won a Super Bowl with the Rams. Sonny is 6'4.5", 243, broad jumped 11.0, vertical jumped 40 inches, and squatted 675. That's ridiculous. His body fat is 10%. If not for Jeremiah Smith, Bruce says, Styles would be the Buckeyes' biggest freak. The truth is, it's very close between them. Sonny says he's a little faster, talking of Jeremiah, who hit 23.5 this year. My one last year was 23.2. My most recent high was 22.8. We're super competitive with each other. We do bike sprints against each other. We'll push the sleds. We have a bunch of great athletes always pushing each other. Like Smith, Styles credits his father for helping him get a good start, developing his freaky athleticism. When I was younger, I did a lot of explosive training with my dad at 5 and 6 years old. We were doing ladders, running with parachutes, doing broad jumps up hills, box jumps, jump squats. He always made everything a competition. All right, so we got the formula down now. Have an NFL dad and start training at 5 with a parachute. But here's the most interesting part of the entire thing. I don't think any of us are surprised that Jeremiah is number 1 on this list and Sonny Styles is up there at the top. But here's what Sonny Styles had to say about another teammate. Styles said defensive back Brenton Inky Jones at 6'2", 205, the former walk-on from Steubenville, by the way, is in the running for the biggest Buckeye freak. Sonny says he runs like 23.5, jumps 11, and his vert's almost 40. He's a freak. That's the same as JJ. He's definitely a freak. And who knew? I mean, you see him out there. He's a big, long, rangy dude. Looks like he could do some damage, but that is really interesting. So, speaking of walk-ons, I had somebody ask me about walk-ons the other day. They said they thought walk-ons were banned. So here's the deal. The size of the roster is getting cut to 105, which means that a lot of teams before the settlement came out were proactively telling kids, look, we don't want to see you get screwed. You're not going to make the 105. So those kids went and entered the transfer portal when it was open, and they went somewhere else. So you had a lot of programs losing a bunch of these walk-ons, and it was really unfortunate. It pissed a lot of people off, and it pissed the judge off too in the settlement. So the judge told the schools and the conferences, listen, figure this out, do right by these kids. And they basically came back and said, yeah, it'll just be really difficult for us. So we just would rather keep it the same way. And she said, listen, I'm going to figure it out for you if you don't figure it out. So the solution is the walk-ons got grandfathered in. And basically the roster limits are going to be 105 after they filter out. Now, what about the guys that left your program? Well, they should have been grandfathered in. Now that they've left your program, you're now allowed to bring one on in their place. So let's say Ohio State was straight up with a bunch of guys and told 15 guys, like, hey, you're not going to make the 105. We'd love to have you stay here. But since you're not going to make that, the transfer portal is only open for 3 weeks. Go jump in. And the kids go jump in. Now they're gone. Now Ohio State gets to receive 15 new walk-ons, and those positions will filter out as their eligibility runs out. So that is the story about walk-ons. Dabo Sweeney had a really cool story about going and talking to a couple guys in spring, 3 guys that wanted to walk on at Clemson. And he told them straight up, like, you're not going to make the 105. And at the end of spring, or when this settlement kicks in, we're going to have to cut you. But if you want, you can come be part of the team now. And they said, yeah, we'll do it. So they come with no guarantees, thinking they're going to get cut, and they play with Clemson, get to be a part of the team. And then the judge makes this ruling, and all of a sudden these guys are now part of the team for the next 4 years, which Dabo said is such a cool life lesson for them moving forward in their life. And it absolutely is, man. They chose to do something hard with no guarantees. Now they get to be part of Clemson. And obviously I'm not a Clemson fan, but I put myself in those shoes. If I was a freshman at Ohio State doing the same thing, that would be really cool. So good stuff. Sean says, we're not playing Michigan game 1. No. Did I say that? I have a tendency to talk fast, and sometimes I misstep. Buck Rational says, I remember typing in several places, I have seen enough of Fry. Listen, buddy. I got to say, I am so impressed. Obviously, he didn't hit his numbers, right? Didn't hit his numbers. The guys that he brought in, minus the Armstrong twins so far, we've not seen anything super promising out of them, but they're still young. But ahead of schedule, like all of them. Padilla looks good. Obviously, you got the obvious ones, Luke Montgomery, Carter Lowe, Ian Moore. Those are the obvious ones. It's the Gabe Van Sickles and the Padillas and the Javon McFaddens and the Jake Cooks. It's the ones that aren't obvious. He just nailed those evaluations. Just nailed them. They're good football players, man. We are a lucky bunch right now because that offensive line room looks just stacked. Doreen says, Keenholz is easy on the eyes, so I've heard. Buck Rational bringing up a legendary time in Ohio State's history. Actually, it was when Zen Mahalski was forced to play left tackle. I blamed Fry for not having him ready, neglecting that he had only 6 months with him. Yeah, that was more with the plan, man. They needed to go with the other option right off the rip. He definitely hated recruiting. So again, if you're just joining us, we will be live again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. And it's going to be me and Tony Gerdeman. So make sure to join us. Me and Tony chopping it up here. Michael says Oregon's class is kind of ridiculous. It is a really, really good class. Richie, not happy with Ross Bjork. Down in Ross Bjork's first year. Ross is a profit guy. He needs gone. Ross does not want, look, Ross wants to be loved. He wants to be accepted and loved. He wants to be part of the Ohio State community, and that's clear. There is one thing he is learning fast, and that is there is no fan base in the country that cares more about recruiting than the Ohio State fan base. I mean, it is just uncanny the amount of somewhat casual fans who follow recruiting. You just can't do it. You can't follow backwards in recruiting here. You just can't do it. Oh, thanks, Doreen. Doreen said I looked very professional on the sideline Saturday. I was trying to be very professional, and I'm standing here trying to be very professional, looking down. Nobody mind me. I'm just taking notes in my little notepad. And then I hear, Jack, Jack. Oh, geez. It's my girl. Totally agree with my man, Buck Rational. Perez was a must get. You can't let a guy like that you finally grow in your own neck of the woods go down to Florida. It just couldn't happen. I wouldn't be surprised at all if John's correct here. John thinks that at some point in the season, the two quarterbacks will have their chance to stamp themselves. So it'll work out either way. I totally agree. What's up, Adam? Wheels and Levers says Bjork wasn't exactly killing it at A&M. It was an interesting hire. That's for sure. He's in a tough spot. I'm not going to try to pretend like he's not in a tough spot. It's just different. Nobody's ever had to deal with this, you know? You can't compare this to any other AD. This is totally unique. Oh, we got some super chats from my man, Adam. So tired of hearing about losing of Chip and JK. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Adam. Don B. Vanquish Pat, hire Doreen. Totally agree. Don B. $5. Man, what a friendly dude. Chuck, thank you, brother, for your coverage of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Thank you for watching, man. You guys are, obviously, I wouldn't be on this show if it weren't for all of you guys. So I appreciate you because I sure am loving what I'm doing now. I mean, this is a whole lot of fun. I've been floating on a cloud, man. Seekneog says, Seekneog, Bjork was allowing the NIL to go off the rails at A&M. I think he would pay more if OSU played in the gray area. Yeah. The thing is, he got himself involved with the formation of the CSC. So now it's kind of like, all right, you look like a bit of a hypocrite if you get yourself involved in that and then kind of go off the rails. However, now that they are letting collectives be viewed as businesses, the collectives can make guaranteed offers because they can now make sure those kids get paid in the form of these funneling money deals that we're seeing everywhere where they're just, all right, we're going to do a coach's clinic and every player is going to get $90,000 or $9,000 and you just keep on and on and on until you reach the number that each individual guy is paid. It's a bit of a joke. Richie, Juck, this Texas game is almost identical to the 06 Texas-Ohio State game, but in reverse. Texas coming off a natty, OSU ranked number 1, Texas number 2, but Texas favored. Jesus, he's right. It is a bad omen, Richie. That is a bad omen. Sean, thank you for watching, buddy. Is Padilla a Mexican dish? No, he's a center in the 2 deep. Don B. Don B with another super chat. I can thank Uncle Sam for his EBT recharge, bro. My man. You guys are the best. All right, guys, we are at an hour and 4 minutes. I don't know how long the boss wants me to go. I mean, I'm pretty sure an hour is my limit. That's all the time I get on the Buckeye Huddle Primetime show. But we've got there, well, an hour and 4 minutes, and I appreciate you all so much. Now, if you can't catch the show on YouTube, you can always listen via podcast, where you can find the Buckeye Huddle channel everywhere, and you will see the Buckeye Huddle Primetime logo, Buckeye Huddle Primetime with Juck. If you want to catch more of my stuff, you can catch that over at Juck on Bucks, but I will be here every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m., along with some other really neat stuff that I'll be doing, and look out for me doing some other neat stuff. So anyway, appreciate you guys so much. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening, and I will talk to you later. Juck on Bucks out.